More than 50% of American adults over the age of 65 are living with prediabetes. The vast majority have no idea. This silent metabolic disruption is driven by a condition called insulin resistance, and it is the master puppeteer behind the unexplained fatigue, the stubborn weight gain, and the frustrating brain fog that many accept as a normal part of aging. This is not normal, and it is not a life sentence. It is a signal from the body that a key communication line has broken down. And in this video, we will reveal a simple, science-backed 10-minute protocol performed after a meal that can restore that communication and reverse the shutdown. The human body is an orchestra of trillions of cells, each requiring energy to perform its function. The primary source of this energy is glucose, or blood sugar, derived from the food we eat. The job of transporting this glucose from the bloodstream into the cells belongs to a master hormone, insulin. Think of insulin as a key. It travels through the blood, finds a cell, and fits perfectly into a receptor on the cell's surface. This is the key turning in the lock. The door opens, and glucose floods in, providing the cell with the fuel it needs to power everything from a thought to a footstep. For decades, this process is seamless, effortless. But after years of processing modern diets, high in refined carbohydrates and sugars, the cells begin to change their response. The constant, overwhelming demand for insulin is like a key being turned in the lock, over and over, thousands of times a day. The lock begins to wear out. The cell becomes desensitized. It grows deaf to insulin's knock. This is insulin resistance. The pancreas, sensing the cells are starving, misinterprets the situation. It believes the problem is a lack of insulin, not a lack of sensitivity. So it works harder, pumping out even more of the hormone in a desperate attempt to be heard. This creates a state of high blood sugar and high insulin, a toxic combination that triggers a cascade of negative effects throughout the body. The cells are starving in a sea of plenty, and a starving body has no energy. This is the deep, cellular root of the fatigue that coffee cannot fix. It is the reason a nap provides only temporary relief. The body's power plants, the mitochondria within the cells, are being systematically deprived of fuel. They are shutting down. What is the most immediate consequence of this metabolic traffic jam? And where does all that excess glucose, now locked out of the cells, actually go? The answer to that question explains the frustrating reality of weight gain after 55. But there's a way to redirect that traffic, and it has to do with the specific order you eat your food. We will reveal that precise sequence later in this video. With nowhere else to go, the body makes an executive decision. It converts the excess blood sugar into fat. This is not just the subcutaneous fat you can pinch. Insulin resistance preferentially creates visceral fat, the dangerous, inflammatory fat that wraps itself around your internal organs like the liver, pancreas, and intestines. This internal fat is not passive. It is metabolically active, functioning like an unwanted organ that secretes inflammatory proteins and hormones. These substances travel throughout the body, disrupting other systems and further worsening insulin resistance. It is a vicious, self-perpetuating cycle. The body becomes a highly efficient fat storage machine, particularly around the midsection. This is why diets that worked in one's 30s and 40s suddenly fail. It is not a matter of willpower. It is a matter of hormonal signaling. The body is biochemically programmed to store, not burn. But the impact is not limited to the waistline. The brain consumes over 20% of the body's total glucose supply. It is an incredibly energy-hungry organ. When insulin resistance takes hold, it effectively starves the brain of its primary fuel source. The result is brain fog. The difficulty finding words, the lapses in short-term memory, the feeling of walking through a mental haze. These are not inevitable symptoms of aging. They are often direct symptoms of a brain struggling for energy. Restoring insulin sensitivity is not just about physical health. It is a critical strategy for maintaining cognitive clarity and sharpness for decades to come. This cellular deafness can be reversed. The signal can be restored. And the master key is not found in a pill bottle, but in the contraction of your largest muscles at a very specific time. Stay tuned for the 10-minute post-meal protocol that reawakens your metabolism. There is a pervasive myth that this metabolic decline is simply a non-negotiable part of the aging process. A tax on a long life. This belief is not only disempowering, it is factually incorrect. While certain metabolic processes naturally slow over time, severe insulin resistance is a condition born from environment and habit, not from chronology. It is a dysfunction, not a destiny. The second, more damaging myth is the simplistic advice to just eat less and move more. For an individual with significant insulin resistance, this advice can be counterproductive. Drastically cutting calories can signal to an already starving body that there is a famine, causing it to slow the metabolism even further to conserve energy. And while movement is essential, unfocused, chronic cardio can sometimes raise cortisol levels, a stress hormone that can further interfere with blood sugar management. The solution is not about moving more, it is about moving smart. It's about performing a specific type of movement at the most strategic possible moment to directly address the root problem. Understanding this changes everything. It reframes the problem from a personal failing to a biological puzzle waiting to be solved. And the solution begins before you even take the first bite of your meal. We've discussed the what and the why. The critical question is the how. In just a moment, we will lay out the first step of the protocol, the metabolic shield. You can build before your meal even begins, using nothing more than a glass of water and a common kitchen ingredient. The protocol for reversing this shutdown is a two-pronged attack. First, it's about minimizing the glucose spike from a meal. Second, it's about giving that glucose somewhere to go immediately after the meal. We will address the first prong now. It is called strategic nutrient timing. The speed at which glucose enters your bloodstream is profoundly influenced by the order in which you consume your macronutrients. Studies from Weill Cornell Medical College have demonstrated that changing the sequence of food consumption can reduce the post-meal glucose spike by up to 75%. This is a staggering figure. The optimal sequence is this: fiber first, protein and fats second, and starches and sugars last. Eating fibrous vegetables or a salad at the start of a meal coats the small intestine with a viscous mesh. This mesh physically slows down the subsequent absorption of carbohydrates, preventing a rapid, dramatic surge in blood sugar. It acts as a buffer. The protein and fats further slow gastric emptying, increasing feelings of satiety, and providing a steady, gentle release of energy. By the time you consume the carbohydrates, your body is fully prepped to handle them without the massive insulin panic. This simple shift from eating bread first to eating salad first is one of the most powerful, medication-free tools for blood sugar control. You've now armed your body against the initial glucose assault. The meal is finished. The clock is now ticking. You have a 90-minute window to perform the single most important action of your day. This 10-minute sequence will force your cells to listen. It begins with one simple movement: the squat. No weights, no gym, no special equipment. Just the simple act of lowering and raising your body, powered by the massive engines of your legs. But here's the secret, the piece of the puzzle that is almost always omitted from this advice. The reason this works has very little to do with burning calories. Did you hear that? The 10 minutes of movement we are about to prescribe will burn fewer calories than you would find in a single apple. So if it's not about calories, what is it really about? What is the hidden mechanism at play? The truth is far more shocking. In a state of chronic inactivity, your muscles don't just become smaller or weaker. They undergo a profound shift in their biochemical role. They switch their allegiance. They stop being your primary metabolic ally and start sending signals that actively protect and feed your body fat. Think of it this way: your body is an economy, and glucose is the currency. When that currency floods the system after a meal, it needs to be spent or stored. Your muscles, which make up over 40% of your body mass, are supposed to be the primary spending centers. They are the factories, the construction sites, the furnaces that are ravenous for that glucose currency. But what happens when the factories are closed for business? When they have been sitting idle for hours, as they do for most of us in our modern, sedentary lives? The muscle cells go into a low-power, hibernation mode. They don't need the energy, and they do something that sabotages your entire system. They send a chemical message back to the liver, the central bank of your body's economy. The message says, "We're full. We don't need any of this currency. Turn it into something you can store long-term." And what is that long-term storage? Visceral body fat. Your own muscles, the very tissue that is supposed to keep you lean and healthy, start actively telling your body to store fat around your organs. This is the great betrayal. It's why you can feel so tired and yet still gain weight. Your body is in an energy crisis, starving its cells, while simultaneously being instructed by its largest organs to hoard more energy as dangerous fat. It is a biological paradox. So when you stand up after a meal and perform a simple squat, you are not just exercising. You are staging an intervention. You are sending a biological shout, a non-negotiable demand, directly to those sleeping muscle cells. Here's the science. On the surface of every muscle cell are thousands of tiny doorways called GLUT4 transporters. Think of them as glucose gates. In a healthy person, the hormone insulin acts as the key, unlocking these gates to allow glucose to enter and be used for energy. But in an insulin-resistant person, the locks are rusted shut. The insulin key no longer works properly. The glucose is left stranded in the bloodstream, causing damage. But, and this is the secret that can change your life, there is another way to open those gates. A master key that doesn't rely on insulin at all. That master key is muscle contraction. The physical squeezing and contracting of the muscle fiber mechanically forces those GLUT4 gates to open. It is a physical override. It's like kicking down the door when the key is broken. You are telling your muscles, I don't care if you think you're full. I don't care what signals you've been sending. You are opening for business right now. And they have no choice but to obey. They become giant, hungry sponges, soaking up the excess glucose from your bloodstream, preventing it from being converted into fat. You are manually rerouting your body's fuel lines in real time. So what is the protocol? It is deceptively simple, but every component is deliberate. You will perform it within 90 minutes of finishing your main meal, ideally starting within 10 to 20 minutes. The 10-minute metabolic reboot. First, for 60 seconds, body weight squats. Go as low as you comfortably can. The goal is not speed, it's deep, deliberate contraction of your thighs and glutes. Feel the muscles working. You are waking them up. Next, for 60 seconds, alternating lunges. Step forward, lower your body, and push back. This challenges the muscles in a different way and maintains the metabolic demand. You are keeping the gates open. Then, for 30 seconds, rest. Just stand and breathe. This is not a high-intensity interval workout. The goal is activation, not exhaustion. Now, for 60 seconds, calf raises. Stand with your feet flat and simply raise your heels off the ground, squeezing your calf muscles. The calf is known as the second heart for its role in pumping blood back up the legs. Activating it now helps circulate the blood and facilitates the glucose uptake. Next, for 60 seconds, wall sit. Find a wall. Slide your back down until your knees are at a 90-degree angle and hold. This is an isometric contraction. It creates a sustained, intense demand for energy in the quadriceps without any joint movement. This is perhaps the most powerful glucose disposal move of all. You are locking the gates in the open position. Rest for 30 seconds. You will repeat this entire 5-minute circuit one more time. Squats, lunges, rest. Calf raises, wall sit, rest. A total of 10 minutes. That's it. This is not about building a bodybuilder's physique. It's about performing a precise, targeted, biological task. You have intercepted the glucose spike. You have short-circuited the fat storage signal. You have told your body to burn, not to store. You have manually reopened the conversation between your muscles and your metabolism. And the benefits cascade beyond your waistline. Remember the brain fog? That feeling of a slow, hazy mind? That is the direct result of the brain experiencing the wild peaks and troughs of blood sugar. When your blood sugar crashes after a massive spike, your brain is literally starved of energy. By performing this 10-minute reboot, you are not just protecting your pancreas and your liver, you are protecting your clarity. You are ensuring a stable, steady supply of fuel to your brain, allowing it to function at its peak. The result is sharper focus, better memory recall, and the dissipation of that mental haze. It is the difference between a sputtering engine and a finely tuned one. But a crucial question remains. This protocol is incredibly effective at dealing with the glucose from a single meal. But how do you stop the system from defaulting back to its fat storage programming between meals? Opening the gates is one thing, but how do you change the default setting? How do you resensitize the lock so that the insulin key starts working again on its own? The answer involves another biological paradox. A system that governs cellular repair and renewal. It's a process that our modern lifestyle of constant eating has almost completely shut down. It's a self-cleaning mode that your body is designed to enter, but which most of us rarely, if ever, activate. Activating it requires flipping yet another metabolic switch, one that has nothing to do with what you eat, or even how you move, but rather when you don't. This master switch is called autophagy. From the Greek, it literally means self-eating. And while that may sound alarming, it is the most rejuvenating, restorative process your body has. It is your built-in cellular renewal program. For most of your life, your body is in growth and storage mode, fueled by constant meals. It's always building, always storing. But when you strategically create a window of time, typically 12 to 16 hours, without food, your body senses the shift. It flips the switch, the frantic building stops, and the deep cleaning begins. This is how you fix the lock. Autophagy identifies those old, damaged, insulin-resistant receptors and recycles them. It breaks them down into their raw materials and builds new, exquisitely sensitive receptors in their place. You are not just managing insulin resistance. You are systematically reversing it at the cellular level. The insulin key begins to work again. Here is the grand design. You use the 10-minute metabolic reboot after your meals as your immediate, powerful tool to dispose of glucose, preventing the spike. This is your tactical response. Then, you use a daily fasting window to trigger autophagy, your strategic level repair system that heals the underlying problem. The exercise kicks down the door. The fasting fixes the lock. These two protocols, working in tandem, are the 1-2 punch that puts you back in the driver's seat of your own biology. It is a system that works with your body's ancient wisdom, not against it. You stop being a passive passenger on a journey towards metabolic disease and become the pilot, charting a course towards vibrant, energetic health. You are no longer just surviving. You are thriving. The power to change is not in a pill or a fad diet. It's already inside you, waiting to be unlocked. You have the master key, and now you have the instructions for the master repair crew. The question is no longer what to do, but when you will begin. The journey to reclaiming your health starts now. We've only just scratched the surface. To learn the precise schedules, the tips to make fasting effortless, and a dozen other simple protocols to reclaim your energy and focus, you need to be here with us. This isn't just a channel. It's your roadmap. Take the first step. Subscribe to How to Be Healthy, and let's build a healthier life together.